What is your definition of technical debt?
Well, I think technical debt is something that I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of times people would trot that out sort of as a euphemism, and sort of as, oh, I don't like the way that smells, or oh, he didn't make the choices I would have made. And I like the definition that it's something that increases the cognitive overhead of working with your software, because it helps you get a little bit of distance from it and get away from assigning fault or assigning blame, and talk more about what the actual problems are with the system.
Now, when encountering old code, there's actually an impulse to rewrite it.
Sure.
I mean, how should that impulse be addressed?
Well, so that impulse to where you say, oh, I can't possibly work with this, I need to rewrite this before I can possibly do anything productive with this code. It's actually something I'm really cautious about when I have that instinct myself, or whenever somebody on my team has that impulse. And I'm cautious about it because I don't have a lot of evidence that rewrites, even in the small, are successful. And so I think it's something that really needs to sort of be kind of held back and think more about what the incremental and evolutionary improvements might be for your code.
Now, what about ignoring technical debt? I mean, is that a viable option?
Well, it's sort of the opposite extreme, right?
Sure.
It's in that case, you're sort of ceding all control of things to inertia or to momentum, and entropy is going to definitely creep in. And you're also going to make decisions that aren't really based on facts. They're just kind of based on the present moment, and not, you're giving up your control over steering the ship. You're just going wherever the tide takes you, and you're just letting go of the controls there.
So is the answer somewhere in the middle there?
Yeah, the answer is definitely in the middle. I mean, part of the answer is that the business has to decide what they're comfortable with and what their priorities are. Because sometimes that old code, it might not look so great. It might have a lot of problems, but it's probably serving your customers. And it's, if you have revenue coming in, it's totally possible that code is providing that revenue. So that's something that's important to the business.
So last question for you.
Sure.
How do you change organizational perspectives toward technical debt?
Sure. That's sort of what sort of around the business, and about making sure engineers are communicating to product, engineers are communicating upward about what the problems are, and what we'll be able to do when we pay down some of this debt, or when we take a different path. And so this is something the entire business has to be aware of. It's also something engineers have to take responsibility for communicating, I think, because at the end of the day, we're the ones actually interacting with the code, and it's our responsibility to explain and not just do what we're told, but help people understand what the ramifications are.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.